Hello, everyone. Welcome or welcome back to Dirty Martini. I hope you're doing well and I hope you're having an amazing day. Today, guys, this episode I actually was supposed to record yesterday, but yesterday I was a complete and utter mess of emotions because yesterday I finished Young Sheldon. And the thing is, I was not prepared to finish it because looking at the seasons, they have 20 something episodes. So I was not ready for the last season to have half the episodes. And I'm looking at the series and I'm like, oh, I'm only at episode 11. I've got like 12 more to go. I'm good to go. And then I see I have 3 more. And I know this is such a silly thing, but I was just not ready to let go. Because I hate when this happens. I hate when I'm not prepared to let a story go, especially when I know how this story is ending. Because I have seen The Big Bang Theory. I think I've seen it multiple times. And spoiler alert, George dies at the end of Young Sheldon, which is not a surprise for the Big Bang Theory fans because in the Big Bang Theory, Sheldon does mention of his dad's death, but in Young Sheldon, you never really know, I feel like, when it is going to happen, and of course it's going to happen in the second to last episode because this is such an amazing conclusion to have to the series. But despite me knowing that George dies, despite me knowing how he dies, it still hurt like a motherfucker. Because I'm the type of person who sometimes, especially when it comes to series and it's something I watch in a prolonged period of time rather than just, sit and watch a movie for an hour and a half. But even then, I'm someone who gets very emotional with movies, especially when movies and series are conveyed in a way that is rather, well, I wouldn't say Young Sheldon is necessarily a super realistic, although I don't know, maybe there are some wunderkinds who yeah, that's the word. I speak German. Why am I so worried about the pronunciation? The other day I spoke German with my German friend and she was like, you speak German pretty well. Stop worrying about speaking the language and just speak. And it's so much easier said than done. But actually, I feel like this gave me an unhealthy amount of confidence when it comes to my German skills. And now I have decided that I am going to improve my German skills until I speak at least B2 level and I can talk freely in the day-to-day life. Because I was pretty good at German and then I didn't practice for years and it naturally just didn't remain at the level at which it was. But the good thing is I have a pretty solid base, so I still remember a lot of things, and as I speak I remember vocabulary. I just don't remember, is it called an article? Like the eine, einer, yeah, those things. I don't remember them, like the der, die, das. But that's something that can be rectified. Also, even if I mess up the gender of a table, which is masculine, which doesn't compute in my Bulgarian brain because in Bulgarian table is female because our language is also one of those with nouns having a gender, which is why it is so weird when not only nouns but adjectives, everything acquires a gender in Bulgarian, and that's why it's so iffy when you have to refer to someone who's non-binary because they can either be nebinagan or nebinagna depending on their gender, which is extremely ironic, and maybe our language should evolve to include that. I don't know. But Young Sheldon. So it really, really sucked because despite me knowing of George's death, despite me expecting it, and I talked to my friend and she was like, yeah, he dies in this episode because I gave her the green light to spoil it for me because I knew it was coming, and I feel like if something like this is spoiled for me, it's not going to hit me as hard. But little did I know that I was going to cry. I haven't cried this much at a TV production since the first time I watched One Day, and One Day wrecked me. It wrecked me. Oh my god. Now thinking, oh no, I'm starting to tear up. One Day, I've talked about this before, it is the most beautiful TV series ever created, and it makes me want to live. Not simply exist, just it makes me want to live and live my life to the fullest because, and I'm drawing here a parallel with George. So George dies when he's just offered his dream job, when he's about to move, when his children grow up and he is thinking of a new beginning and he has something more to look forward to. And then he dies rapidly, out of the blue, unexpectedly. I mean, yeah, they have been poking at his health and his weight throughout the entire series, but, there are far more aspects that go into having a heart attack than just your weight. And so, despite me knowing that this is going to happen, and it sucks because, like, it is finally the character having their moment, and then they die. And it's the same thing that happened with One Day. They finally get together. They finally are going to buy a house and start a family, and she dies. And I think I am starting to cry. I don't want to cry. In moments like these, I'm super thankful that Dirty Martini is not a video podcast yet, because I don't want to be crying on the internet, at least not visually. Like, audio-wise, I can mask it, and you will not be able to tell if I've cried or not. But video-wise, I get as red as a tomato, my eyes get puffy, and it's just not a pretty sight. I am not a pretty crier. But that doesn't matter, because sometimes emotions don't have to be pretty to be felt. And basically, I feel this really beautifully captures the unexpectedness, the cruelty, and at the same time beauty of life, that we spend so much of our life waiting and longing for something to happen when we don't even know if we achieve it, or when we achieve it, if we're going to get the chance to experience it. Because a lot of people, for example, let's speak about career, dedicate their entire life to achieving a particular career goal and worry about a future where they may well not even exist. And life is so unpredictable. And just like one day, you just grab your coffee, go out to get to work, and you tell your family, I'll be back at 4. And then your two best friends go to the front door to tell your family you have had a heart attack and you didn't make it. And I think this is so heartbreaking, how unpredictable things are. And yeah, that is the beauty of it, that it's incentivizing us to make the most out of every single moment, and to remind people that we love them, and to not spend our limited time on earth worrying about stuff that is passing, and to invest it into stuff that really matters for us and for the people we love. But we get so caught up in a routine that our life just gets punctuated by meaningful stuff like birth and death. And there should be more to life than birth and death, and there should be more to life than just going to work and clocking in and clocking out and giving promises, I'm going to meet you later, when we don't even know if that's a promise we can keep up. And it's just so hard. Oh no, I'm fully crying. I didn't want my morning to start like this. That's why I was planning on recording it yesterday, because I was like, I will be in the thick of the emotion. But then I was like uncontrollably sobbing, and I was like, no, I don't want to. I am unable to articulate myself right now because my nose was stuffed. I could barely see because my vision was blurry from all the tears. I could barely breathe. And I was like, you know what? Let me leave it for the morning, and I can, clear my head and speak my mind, and having processed everything that this series made me feel. But now what I ended up doing is basically I prolonged my sadness for this character. And yes, I am the type of person who gets super attached to characters because thankfully I am the type of person who gets very affected by art. And I just think when such beloved characters die, it is a really beautiful reminder that we are all passing creatures. And there is no order when it comes to death. Death doesn't care how old you are, what your health is, who you love, what you're looking for. Death just demands, and it is not considerate in the sense that, oh, she finally achieved her dream. Let me, them, let or her. I am a mess right now. Like, they finally achieved their dream. Let let them have it. No, death and life don't work like that. And it's just like in moments like these, when I get reminded by something I use as diversion, and I get reminded that this is what life is. I just like it's such a big punch in the gut, because again, despite me expecting it, I didn't like I thought I was prepared for his death. And like, if you think now here I'm purely and only talking about young Sheldon, no, this is much deeper than this. So obviously, I knew George was going to die. Obviously, I knew when he was going to die, how he was going to die. I was prepared for his death before I even started watching the series, because I had watched the original series. And I really thought that this preparedness was going to ease the pain I feel through my parasocial relationship to those characters. And it didn't. And I think this is, yet again, just I can make a parallel between the series and life, that we all know that eventually we're all going to die. This is the only thing that's guaranteed to you in life. You're not guaranteed to succeed. You're not guaranteed to find love. You're not guaranteed to find a home, make a home. You're not guaranteed to be happy, be sad. You're not guaranteed anything at birth, but the fact that your life is going to end. This is the only certainty in life, that it will come to an end, that you will die sooner or later. And just because we know it, just because we expect it, does not mean that it makes it easier. Because I feel like, obviously, we people struggle with death, struggle with grief. That is normal, because we are able and capable to feel, and to feel deeply, to get attached, and it's very hard to let go. And just your preparedness sometimes is not enough. Life is not an exam that you can study for, and you have like a set of, let's say, 50 to 100 lessons that you have to learn, and you get examined on those. No, life is unpredictable, and you don't know when your final exam is going to be, and you don't know how to prepare for that final exam. And sometimes you don't even know how to study, or how to just be And that is okay. That is the beauty of life. That is, of course, the thing a lot of people struggle with at life. Like, how do I navigate life? Because there is no rule book, there is no syllabus when it comes to life. There's just things happening, not even one at a time. Things happen all together, and you have to develop skills at all times and emotional capabilities at all times to navigate life. And that is the hardship of life, and that is the beauty of life. And no matter how prepared you are for someone's passing, let's say someone is very sick, someone is very old, someone is very old and very sick, and you can see the light in their eyes slowly fading away. You expect that the death is going to happen. You can even perhaps grieve prematurely. That, however, does not eradicate the fact that this is going to hurt like a bitch when it eventually happens. And how beautiful that we have something or someone we feel so attached to, we love so much, that it makes the parting ways so difficult, that the emotion lingers, that we are left wanting more. How beautiful that we get the chance to experience grief, because grief is love reincarnated. And I think I don't know what the purpose of life is. I don't know what the meaning of life is. I don't know what life is, period. But I feel like this is such a big part of it. Grief and love and their connection, and one being just the rebirth of the other, the evolution, the revolution, the reincarnation of other, the reimagination of other. It just signals to how interconnected we are as beings and complex we are as beings, and just we cannot be put into a box. And that's why coping with emotions is far harder than people make it out to be and textbooks make it out to be. Because wait, my alarm is going off. Yeah, obviously I was supposed to wake up now, but I couldn't sleep too well thinking about those things, and now my alarm fully threw me off. And yeah, the complexity of people is the beauty of our existence. And if things were so easy to cope with, maybe they wouldn't be that full of passion. And life devoid of passion, life which is immune to passion, is, I don't want to say empty existence, but I feel like this is what I want to say. And what a privilege that we get the chance, we get the opportunity, we get the privilege again to love something so much that we miss it when it's gone. And yes, it's just a TV series, and I will let go of that TV series. And if I don't want to, I will never interact with that series again. But it's just, that's why I love sitcoms, because sitcoms, they're funny, they're entertaining, they give you diversion. They, however, still serve a larger purpose than making you laugh. And even if their purpose was just to make you laugh, what a great purpose, because in life we all need laughter, right? And I just love it, because drama series, you obviously are aware, and there's tension all throughout. And of course, this is some people's existence, and actually a lot of people's existence nowadays is just defined by the pressure they're constantly under. But that's why I love sitcoms, because I feel they're so multi-layered, and they show you highs and they show you lows, and there's no consistency consistency in the pressure, and you have peaks and you have lows. And I think that's why I love them so much, because they are a very, well, not accurate depiction of life, but just there are a roller coaster of emotions. And especially when it comes to a series finale, of course it's going to be emotional. And when it's like such long series, like, I'm just now thinking, if I were watching Young Sheldon as it was coming out, and episodes were released once a week, like one episode per week or two episodes per week, I don't know what the release schedule was like, it would have really contributed to the experience of George's death. Because, so George, his death is announced in the 12th episode of the 7th season. His funeral is managed in the 13th episode, which is when I just couldn't stop crying. And the 14th episode is the series finale. And I think that if now I get the chance to binge watch it because, streaming platforms. So I got the chance to be exposed to all emotions all at once. But what I think the beauty of the release once per week would have contributed to is that his death is announced and you have a week to sit in the feeling, to sit in the not knowing, to sit in the emptiness, to sit in the grief. And then all the emotions just attack you basically. And from emptiness, you get just chaos and you don't know how to navigate it, because they're two polar opposites, but they're so tightly attached. And I think this would have really contributed to the viewer experience and the audience experience and the creation of the narrative of life. Because, well, in life, when it comes to grief, you don't always get the privilege to have time off and process your grief. In life, most times, grief happens while you have another 100 things on your plate, and while grief is all encompassing and all consuming, you still have a lot to deal with. So from viewer experience, that is a privilege. In real life, we don't always get the privilege to feel feelings one at a time. Most of the times we get the chaos, and it's up to us to make the pieces fit in the puzzle when they don't even belong to the same picture. And yeah, I just guys, I fear I really loved Young Sheldon. It was one of those series which at first it took some getting used to, but then I really got attached to it. And I'm the type of person who gets really attached to every single series they watch, and I love it. I love that I let myself be affected and touched by art. I let myself cut down the fourth wall and not distance myself too much from the narrative, but I let myself be part of that narrative. Even if it's just as an onlooker, I still experience it. And that's why I love series like these that are just so mundane in a way, because it's about a family, but it's so much more. And yeah, I guys, if you have not seen Young Sheldon, I definitely think you should, even if it's just so that you can reach season 7, episode 13, and you can feel what I felt, because I think this is beautiful. And yes, sure, I know the physics talk gets too much at times, but I think this is the quirkiness and the attraction of it all, because I love the Big Bang Theory, and this is also a big part there, and I just loved it. And I am now excited to watch, obviously, Georgie and Mandy's first marriage. And by the way, I was so happy when they introduced Emily Osmond, so Mandy, because I am such a devoted Hannah Montana fan and I love Emily Osmond and I just love her. And I remember there was this other series with her. I think it was called Young and Hungry or something like this. And I tried to watch that multiple times and I started it over and over again and I really liked it. But then I never actually got the chance to watch the finale or even the last season. And I don't know what's happening with the characters and it's at times like keeping me up at night because I need to find like a streaming platform where I can watch this series because it was super enjoyable. And I remember back in the day they were playing it on Fox Live, which is this TV channel in Bulgaria. I'm sure it's not a Bulgaria. Well, Fox, is it connected to like, you know, Fox? Most likely. Interesting that they would play that type of, TV series, which include characters of diverse backgrounds. Am I throwing shade? Absolutely. But it's because I'm connecting, well, Fox with, right wing. Anyway, so I really like Emily Osmond, and I was very happy to see her introduced as, a main character. I was a bit iffy, not even a bit, I was quite iffy when it came to the age gap, but I was honestly quite happy to see them being critical, like the characters themselves being critical of the age gap between Georgie and Mandy. But that only was at first. Eventually they got over it, which I guess, I mean, like they have a child, but like this, I don't know why, but I'm very stuck up when it comes to age gap differences, especially when it comes to like, someone 30-year-old dating a minor. Like that's just not it. And I was very interested how they're going to navigate the age gap because I don't know, I'm like a bit, I was just criticizing Fox, but like I'm a bit conservative when it comes to age gaps. I really hope I'm thinking of the Fox I'm thinking of and not just like throwing shit. No, I do think I'm thinking of the correct Fox, right? So yeah, it's just I don't think that grooming is it. And yeah, I'm quirky like that. I just really don't think that children should be with adults. And I'm super sad that this is something which is unfortunately quite normalized, or at least was quite normalized when I was in high school. Like I legitimately, guys, I am not over exaggerating, when I was 15, one of my classmates' boyfriends was 30 and they're still together. And I just like, let's call the police, shall we? Because I get it from like the young person's perspective. It is like, oh my God, I am so cool that someone older finds me attractive. You see it as something cool. You see it as like, social status or something like this. But now, on the other end of the spectrum, like from the point of view of the grown-up, what the fuck is wrong with you that you're literally 30 years old and you're attracted to a child, which by the way is closer to your child in age than, I don't know, like, no, legitimately, she's super close to his child's age. And it's like, this is so fucked up and messed up. And I genuinely, he was also her boss, so there was this power. Like, I'm not criticizing her. I am obviously criticizing him, because what the fuck is wrong with you? How can you look as an adult at a child and be attracted to them? I'm sorry, but I'm 23, and when I look at someone who is 20, I'm like, that's a child. let alone if I look someone whose age ends in a teen. That is legitimately someone in a diaper in my head. And I'm sorry, but like that is, I hate that this is just like, oh, like people who justify age gaps by, oh, like just girls are so much more mature than boys and they mature faster than boys. We wouldn't mature faster if we weren't forced to, because there is no social pressure on men to mature at 12 the same way there is on women. Men are entitled to be children, boys are entitled to be boys, but girls are forced to be women when they're still girls. And how is that fair? How is that narrative okay? I just really, I'm like, when I look at such age gaps, I am honestly straight up disgusted. And I mean, like, in such early stages of your life. I imagine that when you're 40 and your partner is 50, it doesn't matter necessarily that much, probably because you're at somewhat similar stages in life. You're looking for like similar stuff. Maybe you're looking to settle down. Maybe if you haven't settled down yet, you're looking for peace, you're looking for quiet, you're looking forward to the rest of your lives. But when it comes to someone who is 25 and someone who's 15, I'm sorry, but I just cannot make up excuses for this, because I remember I'm 23. Let's say, and this is going to throw me into an existential crisis jail later, but for the sake of the argument, let's say that's 25, because it's close to 25. And I'm sure that by the time I turn 25, I will have hopefully developed much more. That motorcycle, would you mind? Could you please, calm down. Yeah. So I imagine that by 25, my perception of many things will have changed, hopefully, because that would imply growth. But let's say, for the sake of the argument, I'm 25. I would literally have nothing in common with a 15-year-old. Because now, the thing I mentioned about me looking at someone who's 20, let alone someone who's 18, 19, I remember what I was like at 18. I remember what I was like at 19. At 18, I hadn't even moved to the Netherlands yet. I hadn't started my higher education. I hadn't finished high school. I hadn't moved countries. I hadn't just become the person I am today. And the person I am today, despite being very connected because she's an evolution of my 18-year-old self, she would have nothing in common to an extent that would facilitate relationship. It's just that's why I really don't get it. Because looking at an 18-year-old, that person still lives with their parents most likely, hasn't gone to university, hasn't experienced the catharsis of growing up, exiting your teens, entering your 20s, which for me personally, this has been such a cathartic experience, and I can see the growth. And sure, at 18 and 19, I still thought I was extremely mature and extremely grown up, and just, I thought I was the shit. And now I look back at it and I can see why I thought of it that way back then. But now, having done the growth and the maturing I have over the past 4 or 5 years, I can still see that I was a child. And maybe in 5 years, I will look at my current self and think that is a child. Because I'm still in university. And the reason I started talking about age gap differences is because I'm sorry, but there is nothing in common when it comes to, larger life decisions and just experiences and approaches between me and someone who's 15. Because the things we have experienced, the experience we have gathered, and I'm not saying I'm wise, but so I have more wisdom perhaps than a 15-year-old, unless they're like, someone who's so existentially aware. And I'm not saying, again, I'm not saying I'm mature, I'm not saying I'm wise. It's just like I've experienced more stuff, so I have had exposure to more decisions and more situations in life, because this is just how time works. And I just cannot see a possible deeper connection between me and a 15-year-old. Like, I legitimately have this colleague. She's 17, about to be 18. I feel like a complete creep when I talk to her and I am friendly with her. And because of course, like, she is, grown up enough to make a decision of whether she wants to talk to me while we're at work or not. I feel like I'm reading too much into it, but like, guys, I genuinely, I'm very like iffy and questionable when it comes to stuff like these, because I've been exposed to instances like the one of my classmates, and it's just, I've been an onlooker, and it's just, let's learn from other people's mistakes. Those people are still together, but like, and I'm not saying their relationship is a mistake. It's just like, I'm saying it's something I judge. And like, I know, who am I to judge? But like, I am judging. And yeah, so I feel like a complete creep, like a complete pedo, when I'm talking to my 17-year-old colleague and I'm 23, let alone if we're talking about like something beyond being colleagues. Like, how are people attracted to, like, children, like literal children? Like, I'm sorry, but like, if you're younger than 20, you are a child. And I'm not taking any no as an answer here. Like, you are a child. And baby girl, if you're listening to this and your boyfriend is like, I don't know, like 10, 15 years older than you, and you're like, your age still ends in teens, you're being groomed. And I'm sorry to tell you this. And sure, it may be some form of love. And yeah, maybe I am very, conservative in this aspect. And maybe it grows into something beautiful. And of course, every relationship is strictly individual. And now here I'm generalizing stuff. And I recognize that I'm generalizing stuff. But just because like, the thing is, when I was 14, 15, and people around me were talking to guys who were 18, 19, 20, they were like, oh, that's so cool. Like, and then I turned 18, 19, 20, and I looked at 14-year-olds, and I was like, this baby just got out of a car seat. Like, they just now don't have to use a car seat. They just now can, sit in the front seat. And that is so, like, I could never imagine being attracted to someone who's like in that different stage of life, and they still have so much growth to do. And again, I'm not implying that I'm a grown up, but it's just, I am more grown up than a 15-year-old. And that's why I am a bit judgmental when it comes to, I don't know. I really don't know. Like, I really don't want to be mean right now, but I just legitimately think it's weird. And to the girl who's listening to this and doesn't realize she's being groomed by her 30-year-old boyfriend, when you turn 30, I want you to look at a 15-year-old boy and see that you're going to see him as a child. Because first of all, you have been forced to be way too mature for your age. Because at 15, you were forced to be... Because that's also the thing. Does, like, a relationship like the one my classmate had between a 15-year-old girl and a 30-year-old man, does it imply that the girl is so mature beyond her age that she's at the 30-year-old level's maturity level, I mentioned level multiple times, but you know what I mean? Or does it imply that the 30-year-old man is so immature that he is at the maturity level of a 15-year-old girl? I'm sorry, but like, call the police. Literally call the police. Like, oh my God, this is just, I'm just like, God, if you are like, your age ends in teen and your boyfriend's age doesn't, and he's like 10 or more years older than you, please go and listen to Would've, Could've, Should've by Taylor Swift. And again, I really don't mean to imply that there is no love between those people. It's just like, I really find it weird. I'm so sorry. And I'm sorry if you are very offended by this segment of the episode. But if you are, then maybe think about why is it that you're offended? Because you're on the receiving end, or because you're the perpetrator? I don't want to say predator, but I kind of feel like I want to say predator, because like, a lot of my friends have been groomed, and once they exit the relationship, they're like, this was so not alright. But when you're in it, it's very difficult to see beyond the little bubble that you have created and that has been created for you by that relationship. So just, guys, talk to your friends. And like, this is why I'm a little bit worried when it comes to talking about stuff like these, because I don't want to come off as someone judgmental, and I don't want to, even though I up until now was genuinely like legit straight up judging, it's just, I still want to be a safe space, and I want people to feel like they can trust me and they can turn to me for advice. But it's very difficult for me to not, be questioning stuff when it comes to instances like, for example, these ones that I've been talking about, because like, there is a very fine line between being honest with your friends and removing the incentive of them speaking to you. And that's why relationships and friendships are such delicate structures that need to be tended to carefully, because I know that if I were in the person's shoes, I would want my friends to be honest, even if that hurt me, even if that jeopardized our friendship, because the purpose of a friend is to be honest with you, to support you. And that support sometimes is going to come in ways in which you don't expect it, and in ways in which you feel like you don't deserve, simply because it's difficult for you to look at it from an outside perspective and from the perspective of someone who's there trying to protect you. Because, oh, but you don't know him the way I do, and you don't like see how he treats me, and he really loves me and stuff. And that could very well be true. And yeah, but it's just, I want to be a safe space for people to share with. I want to be someone who people trust, but still I want to be, as a friend, entitled to be honest with you if I don't agree on something about this. And of course, I'm not no one to tell you, exit your relationship, end your relationship, do this in your relationship. It's your relationship. It's your problem to deal with. But I feel like I, as a friend, should have, like, it's in my job characteristic, in my job requirement, to be honest with you and be upfront with you, even if it's something you're not going to like to hear. Because if I, as a friend, were there just to, agree with you, I'm not going to be a true friend. Like, relationships between friends, between partners, don't have to be agreeable at all times. Because I mean, it's amazing if you agree on everything, but like, let's be realistic. You're not going to agree with everyone on everything. And it should be like the way you approach situations like these is very, very important, because there is a risk if you come off as too judgmental and you come off as someone who is just not going to, you know, console your friend, but is going to judge your friend. Well, your friend is not going to trust you anymore with their secrets and their problems. And that's why it's very difficult to navigate friendships when your friend is in, let's say, a relationship that you think is abusive, and they don't see it, or you think they're being groomed and they don't see it, and it's very difficult to navigate. And that's why I dealt with my friends search for advice when they were in that situation in a way I felt was correct at the time. And I had a really honest talk with my friends who have been in these situations about if, let's say, they again find a partner, God forbid, who is abusive, or they're being groomed again. Like, I talked with them about how they would want me to navigate it, because I feel like if I don't say anything, and of course, my job as a friend is to love my friend and to protect my friend. And sometimes love and protection do not compute in our brain as love and protection, but come off as, being attacked. And I had a really honest conversation with my friends about how they would want me to navigate that relationship if potentially they enter a similar relationship, and how they have felt I have done as a friend when they were in that original relationship, which was, let's say, abusive or grooming of some sort. Because I would not be doing my friend justice if I just let them do things without me giving them my 2 cents as someone who's only looking out for them. And of course, I am no one to impose my decisions and beliefs on them, but I feel like it's my duty as a friend, as someone who loves them, as someone who cares for them, to share it with them. And yeah, I honestly, this is also what I expect from my friends. I would expect from my friends to be honest with me, even if I am not going to like the honesty. And that's what I make all my friends promise me, to be like, oh, if you notice any signs, and I'm so blinded by love or lust or any sort of attraction, tell me. I may not like it. I may feel like you're attacking me, but it's going to make me think. And if making someone think in situations like this is the least we can do, then I feel like it's something we should do. I don't know. They're so difficult to navigate. Friendships and relationships, they're so delicate, especially when it comes to your friend's relationship, because I know of my friend's relationship only what they tell me, because I'm not behind closed doors. And that's a really important thing we often forget about. We don't know what's happening behind closed doors. And that's why we should make ourselves be a comfort space, be a safe space for people where they feel they can trust us, where they feel they can find support and honesty. But honesty without judgment. Honesty with the purpose of protection. And yeah, but like, it's also on the other end, when you are that safe space and you are that comfort zone, at times it genuinely does get exhausting, because I love nothing more than the fact that my friends feel they can trust me enough to share stuff with me that they have not shared with anyone. I love that. I think it means the world to me that they feel safe around me, because I want nothing more in life than to be someone safe, to be someone people feel they can trust, people feel they can find a home in. I love this. It's my goal. It's my, like, I just love it. It's yeah. And but at times it does get exhausting, to be honest, to be the one they always trust, to be the comfort space, because sometimes people, and I'm not talking about everyone, and I'm not seeing it as a burden, the fact that they trust me. It's just certain people don't know how to draw the line. And at times that means that I have felt like I am a dumpster for emotional trash. And it's like, I love my friends trusting me, but it does also get heavy on the receiving end at times. And especially when I am devoted to my friends at the level at which I am, and my devotion sometimes prevents me from setting borders which are self-protective. Because of course, if I can take my friend's pain, or at least half it, I'm going to do it, because I love my friends. There are a few things I am proud of in life, and one of the things which no one can convince me otherwise is that I am a good friend. And I know this sounds cocky, I know this sounds very ego-like, I know I'm a good friend. And I just sometimes as a friend struggle to set boundaries and not be an emotional dumpster, but demand that I also be treated as something more than someone to console in. Because, and I, like, if some of my friends are listening, you guys are not a burden. And I really don't mean to treat you like a burden or make you feel like a burden. You're not. I love the fact that you share with me. There are just some instances where I get overwhelmed, is what I think I'm trying to say. And I feel like this is something I should really put in more effort into progressing and into learning how to navigate, because loving others without protection of your self-love and yourself in general can lead to at least emotional self-harm, because you're giving, and at a certain point there's nothing more to give, and you cannot expect a dried up well to water and upkeep an entire forest. And I just think that friends should be a safe space, but also friends, in their being a safe space, should also recognize what emotional and taxing, saying emotional taxing here implies something bad. I don't mean it as something bad. I just mean it as something which is, there are emotional expenses in friendships. I think that devoted friends a lot of the time struggle with setting boundaries in friendships because of love, because of wanting to be there for your friend, because of wanting to be a great support system. Sometimes you forget that being someone else's support system comes at the expense of you being a support system for yourself. And that's why I stopped wishing people unconditional love when it comes to their birthdays. Because when I was little, well, younger, not little, I used to always wish people, and I wish you unconditional love, which would exist at all times, no matter what, no matter who you are, no matter what you do. And and hear me out, I don't think love should be unconditional. And I don't mean it at the sense of like, in sickness and health and good and bad. I just mean it that love, giving love, the person who gives love should be respected and should respect themselves enough to recognize the type of love they give and how giving that love affects them personally. Because it's so much more complex than what I'm going to make it out to be now. But if me giving love to someone comes at the expense of my well-being, then what type of love is that? And I'm not saying that love should always be reciprocated but love is in a way fulfilling, and I just don't think love should be as unconditional as I thought it should be when I was younger. Because love without boundaries, love without respect is self-harm. And I feel like, of course, we all deserve to be loved. And I'm not saying that love is something that should be earned or that's something that's worked for, because there's nothing better than being loved simply for who you are, simply for existing. This type of love that is devoted, is dedicated, and is just true. But I feel like love should come with boundaries. Boundaries which are self-protective, which are other protective, because again, oftentimes love without boundaries can unfortunately easily grow into self-harm in one way or another, because there is the chance of something so beautiful harming you, and it is up to you to practice your loving, to express your loving in a way which does not jeopardize your well-being. And again, I feel like it's so much more complex than I make it out to be right now. But these are just some of the thoughts on love I've been having over the past few years about the unconditionality of love and how I was so obsessed with it, but then I thought about it and no, because this creates a narrative where love and abuse can be diluted and become synonymous. Because if someone tells me they love me, but they're abusive to me, that is not love. The person who loves me would not want to harm me. And I'm not taking like any other opinions here, because if you love someone, you would not want to hurt them. But in loving them, you should also not hurt yourself. And I feel like I genuinely am getting so confused right now, and I'm missing the vocabulary to express the thoughts that I wanted to express in a way I felt like they deserve to be expressed. But I really hope my main message came across. First, that life is unpredictable and we should live it to the fullest. We should remind people that we love them, and us loving them, we should not forget that we should love ourselves and that we should be entitled to love which we deserve, not only to the love we feel like we can get. And lastly, but not least, to just watch more sitcoms. Guys, I'm on the hunt for my new sitcom obsession, so if you have any suggestions, please let me know. I want to thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you didn't misunderstand me. I hope I expressed myself in a way I feel like did my feelings justice, at least now with me improvising this and just, not having, because I didn't plan on talking about this. In fact, I wanted to really talk to you about Jurassic World because I went to see Jurassic World, but I guess we'll leave that for next week. But until then, stay hydrated, wear sunscreen, and don't support genocide. And also love, maybe conditionally, if that is what's going to secure survival, at least. I don't know, guys. I really don't know. I'm confused. Love is complex, love is difficult, and who even knows what love is? I have some definitions. Love is very strictly defined by the relationship I have to that person because there are different forms of love, but there's so much more we can talk about, but let's leave that for a future episode. Again, thank you so much, guys, for listening. I hope to see you in the next episode. And again, stay hydrated, wear sunscreen, and don't support genocide. Bye! Lastly, what I wanted to say is I was really, really pleasantly surprised with the way they captured Sheldon's coping with his dad's death and how he was plagued by the what ifs. What if he said this? What if he did this? What would how would the events develop? But he didn't. And I think this really, really beautifully captures one of the ways we cope with grief, because we get plagued by the what ifs. And it is always the what ifs that we regret the most, because it is like, what if I told him I loved him? What if I told him don't take the coffee? What if I held him for a minute more and he just what if he didn't go to work? What if this happened? What if that happened? But it didn't. And it is all the missed opportunities to tell the people we love them that we love them. It is all the missed opportunities to be mindful of each other's existence rather than taking it for granted and ignorant of, and just it's all of this which contributes to the weight which griefs puts on us and on our hearts. And I saw myself represented in that scene so much, because this is how I myself cope with such things. What if I did this? What if I did that? And knowing that I cannot go back and change this puts a lot of blame on me. And it is something which is so self-destructive, and I don't know how to stop, don't know how to prevent. But let's leave that for a future episode for the third time, because third time's the charm. And maybe, who knows, this will be it. Stay hydrated, wear sunscreen, and don't support genocide. Bye.